Hello everyone, I'm Wendy from the Open the Book team at St Luke's Church. When Jesus came to earth, he told lots of stories to help us understand more about who God is and what he's like. We call these stories that Jesus told parables. Today's story is a parable Jesus told about friendship, called A Friend at Midnight. So, let's open the book. Bread. Was this friend hungry? Once, there was a man who was sleeping because it was midnight. Suddenly, someone knocked on his door. He woke up startled, and once he'd rubbed his eyes a bit, went to the door and opened it. It was a friend he had not seen in a very long time, a friend he was not expecting, but who was looking for a place to stay at the end of a long journey. "Come in," the man said. "Have a seat. Would you like something to eat?" But then he realized that there was no food in the house, nothing to eat, not one tiny morsel. "Excuse me," he said, "I have to pop out for a bit. Make yourself at home, I'll be right back." Then the man hurried off into the night to find some food. He went to visit his neighbour. His neighbour was asleep. It was midnight after all. But the man was really desperate, so he knocked on the door anyway and shouted, "I have an unexpected visitor, but there's no food in the house. Could I borrow 3 loaves of bread?" Now the neighbour might have said, "Don't bother me," or "My house is locked up for the night." The neighbour might have said, "Quiet, you'll wake up the kids," or "You're getting nothing from me." But the neighbour was also the man's friend, and the man knew that. So he wasn't afraid to ask that neighbour for help even when it was a bother, even in the middle of the night. And yes, the neighbour got up, fumbled around in the kitchen, and found 3 loaves of bread, unlocked the door, and gave them to the man. He gave them to the man because he had asked, and because he was his friend. So don't be afraid to ask God, said Jesus. Don't be afraid to seek him, and never be afraid to knock to get God's help. For the one who asks will receive, the one who seeks will find, and the one who knocks will have the door opened to him, because God is just like that friend. This parable by Jesus shows us that we can go to God with anything. Our needs, our worries, our fears, our hopes. We know that he will hear and respond at any time, just like a really good friend would do. Think for a moment. Are you the kind of friend who would answer the door to help someone out? Of course, it probably wouldn't be midnight. More likely, it will be when we were really busy doing something else, or playing a game we enjoyed. I wonder, would you be that friend who stops and says, "Yes, I'll help you"? Now I'm going to say a prayer. And if you want to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, thank you that you are never too busy to be our friend, and we can turn to you at all times of the day and night. Help us to be the kind of friend that gives friendship even when it's not a good time. Amen.